Hello, everyone, and welcome to Birth Your Vision podcast. I am so excited about today because we are celebrating International Women's Month. And, this month it's all about basically celebrating the history of Women's Month. And so we are going to be, bringing some amazing, wonderful, remarkable businesswomen leaders and entrepreneurs who are going to be sharing their journey, their stories, to be able to tell us how they've been able to turn their business idea, bring those visions to life. And so today I am so excited and thrilled to have the wonderful Railey Molinario, a renowned love educator and relationship coach. She empowers individuals to live life, to be able to basically teach them the opportunity on how they can actually get the relationship intelligence. And so with the remarkable, journey that she's been on, she's been able to actually birth a six-figure business, and she's become a six-figure boss. And so she has actually gained quite a lot of great recognition, and she's been featured on prominent platforms such as BBC, Peanuts, Medium, and also the Sovereign magazine as well. She is a highly respectable individual, and so she's here today to tell us all about how she was able to become the world's first love educator. And so I am so thrilled to welcome the Queen herself. So welcome to Birth Your Vision podcast. It's great to see you. Let's get started. Hope you're well.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, and happy Women's Month. I'm really, really excited to see all the women coming together this month and just supporting one another and talking about our journey and continuing this cycle of progression.
Absolutely. So happy International Women's Month to you as well. We are celebrating International Women's Month, and it's a global celebration, remembering the history, remembering all the wonderful heroes who has actually paved the way for us, for you and I as well. And so we are going to be looking into bringing so many amazing leaders just like yourself onto the show. And I am so excited that you are one of our wonderful first International Women's Day wonderful guest today. So let's talk about you and your journey and how it's all really, really started. I mean, I love the title. You are now a six-figure boss. But there is something that actually got you to that level, and we want you to actually share that journey with us. So take us through, how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. So I was abandoned by my father when I was an infant and left to sleep in the snow. My beginning to the world was everything but loving. I then grew up with my mother and my stepfather in this very abusive and neglectful household. So there was a lot of emotional, physical, and financial abuse in my background. I lived with my mother when she finally was able to leave my stepfather, and she was very abusive, very traumatized herself. And it got to the point where it was so bad at 16, I decided to leave home and try to make it in the world on my own. When I was younger, I was labeled as academically gifted. So I had what we call the book smarts. And leaving home at 16, I was able to get the street smarts. I was able to get a house, a car. I was studying in university for 2 degrees. On the outside, it looked like I had everything, but on the inside, I was absolutely miserable. I was suffering from anxiety and depression. I had a binge eating disorder. And although I had all of those material things, I just didn't want to live anymore. And I decided that one day I was going to take my life. In the moment just before making that decision, I asked myself, do I actually want to die, or do I want the suffering to end? And in that moment, I realized that those were two different things. That if I could create a beautiful life for myself, where I felt empowered and connected, where I loved myself and other people around me, that was something that I wanted to participate in. So I didn't know it at the time, but the thing that was missing was not the book smarts, not the street smarts, but something I now refer to as relationship intelligence, the ability to navigate successful relationships with ourselves. So what people refer to as self-love, and have successful relationships with other people. So I went on that journey, and along the way, I realized that there are so many people like me. There are so many people who are suffering from depression and anxiety, toxic relationships, broken relationships, generational trauma, generational poverty. And I realized that I was able to go through this journey and completely change my life around. And I wanted to allow people that education so that they could do the same.
Whew, wow. Where do we even start from? My goodness. Your story in terms of what you had experienced from when you were young, in an abusive home and, all those things, and how you were able to actually turn it around for you, because many people have actually experienced what you've had to go through, but they've not had the opportunity to actually turn it around. They've not had the right mindset. At what point did you kind of, make that move, that shift? How did you kind of refocus your mindset to tell yourself that if I wanted a different life, there are some things that I needed to do, there are some actions that I needed to take? Please share that with us.
So when you get to the bottom of the barrel, when you
Hmm.
want to end your life because it's too painful for you,
Yeah.
you get to a point where you say, either I'm going to go through with this and I'm going to end my life, or I'm going to try whatever it takes because I
Mm,
have nothing to lose. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I didn't have that support system from my family. I didn't have a lot of friends because I was studying for 2 degrees. I was working 2 jobs because university in the States is extremely expensive. So I
yeah.
didn't have much of a social life, which left me feeling really, really alone.
Mm,
But I knew one thing was true, and that was that if I was going to take any steps, the first step was to change my mindset. I didn't refer to it as mindset at that time,
mhm,
but I knew that that negativity was blocking me from taking any steps. So I started to. This was back in the day before we had all this YouTube and social media and stuff, but YouTube had just came out, and I found Tony Robbins, I found Les Brown, and these motivational speeches where people were telling me, I felt it was personal to me, but they were telling me that I could create something, that my life wasn't over yet, that I could take those steps, that I could become that person that I always wanted to be. So I started to listen to those every single day. And in the beginning, I didn't believe it. Obviously, I was thinking, okay, this is nonsense. This isn't going to happen to
mm,
me because you don't know my struggles, right? But slowly and surely, that mindset did start to shift a little bit. And I started to gain a little bit of confidence in myself, knowing that because I had that book smarts and I had that street smarts, that I was able
mm,
to teach myself or figure it out of how to start to take the steps to change my life. I started to meditate every day, which I still do to this day. I started to do yoga. I started to do fitness. I changed my diet. I became a vegan. And I started to really implement things that I thought would allow me to connect with myself and first
mm.
figure out what is my value system. Now,
Right.
when I work with couples or individuals, the first thing we talk about is value system, because
Mhm,
every action we take is going to take us closer or further away from that life that we want to live. But we
right.
have to understand what that value system is first in order to know which direction that we want to go in. So I had to figure out what is important to me. Who do I want to be in this world? How do I want to connect with other people? If
Mm,
I am to fall in love with myself, who is that woman I'm falling in love with?
mm,
So it was really about first changing that tape, that negative tape that was in my head that was playing every day, telling me I wasn't good enough, I wasn't going to ever be anything, getting that motivation from, even the stranger on YouTube, and allowing myself to take those steps to really get to know who I am, what I want, and know that I am enough, even though I haven't been told that in the past.
That is powerful. I love what you did in terms of, listening to perhaps people that inspired you. You mentioned Tony Robbins, Les Brown and all those kind of people, or even, drawing inspiration from other people, from strangers, and actually kind of really focusing on yourself and trying to visualize who do you want to be and who are you trying to become, which I think it's so key for so many people who may have experienced adversity or some form of trauma. And, sometimes it's very difficult for you to have the positive mindset, to feel that you're enough, to feel like everything is going to be okay. But at some point, if you could, it's good to tell yourself and reassure yourself that there's a certain person that I want to be, and I need to try to be that person and become that person. And I need to start with myself because everything begins with me. And I really love what you said in regards to visualizing the person that you want to become and start walking in that mindset, which is really amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, for taking us through, your journey, and really how you were able to kind of shift your mindset and really focus on who you want to be in this season. And so I know that you've actually given birth to your business, and I really wanted to know about what is it that actually prompted you to actually launch your business, especially within this current niche of you being a relationship coach.
Yes. So when I figured out that relationship intelligence was the thing that I was
Mm,
seeking, I understood that the most important relationship we are ever going to have is the relationship we have with ourselves. And the
yes.
second most important relationship we're going to have is with our partner, because this is what is going to allow us to create a life that we want to live, because this is the
Mm,
closest person to us. So for me, allowing people to understand exactly how to create thriving relationships is essential.
mhm,
When I was going through this journey, I asked myself, how was I supposed to know how to create a thriving life? How was I supposed to know how to love myself? How was I supposed to know how to have these thriving relationships if no one has ever taught me? And
mm,
I started to go through that process and think about it. And that's the first question that I ask people when they come into my community. When
yeah,
did you learn how to have thriving relationships? Did your parents sit you down, open a book, and say, this is the formula for success? And they
right.
think, well, no. And I ask them, did you take a class in school called relationship intelligence? And they'll say no. And so,
Yeah.
how are you supposed to know how to do this if society is setting you up for failure? And we're all sort of gathering a little bit of information from what our friends say, from what our parents say, from what we see online, from what we see on social media, but there's no formal education in thriving relationships. We have been able to really to research relationships on a scientific level. We do have the formula for success. It's not a secret. A lot of times people think that relationships are this sort of mystical thing because they involve people and feelings, and so they're really, really complicated. But
Mm,
in their essence, relationships are actually quite simple. Yes, they take a lot of implementation, they take a lot of dedication, they take a lot of consciousness and
mm,
presence, but they are quite simple in their structure. The
mm,
reason that we suffer is because we don't have the formula for success. And so we
mm,
really just don't know what we're doing. And so I suffered so much from that. My parents suffered so much from that. And I don't want to see another generation suffering, not because they're bad people, not because they enjoy suffering, but simply because they don't have those tools and techniques that we all should be equipped with from the time that we're children.
yeah. Absolutely. And, I wanted to kind of just quickly go back to your story. I just wondered how this has actually affected you as an adult, because often enough, when we are exposed to, trauma when we are young, there is a way in which it kinds of affects us in our adulthood if it's not dealt with, if there is no therapeutic support in place, or if we're not able to manage it. So, how are you now as an adult in terms of what you had experienced in your childhood?
So I will
Mm.
go back a little bit. When I was
Yeah.
16 and I left home, I thought
Mm.
that everything was going to be okay. I thought that I was going to create this amazing life. I had no
Mm.
idea what trauma was because it wasn't a word that I even ever heard before. So I thought because I was moving location that my whole life was going to change. I had no idea that I was carrying this trauma with me.
Me.
So, as an adult now, after I've been doing this work on myself for over 15 years, I can now say that it's taught me so many beautiful lessons. For example, my father, I never had a relationship with him, and I hated him for a really long time for abandoning me. But I've been able to find that silver lining. I now can contribute my ability to practice compassion because of my father. My father is a person who doesn't have empathy. He's not able to put himself in other people's shoes. He's not able to empathize with other people and show compassion. And it wasn't personal to me. He has other children that he's had this experience with. And so instead of hating him for it, I was able to find the compassion in it, understanding that we all do what we have capable within us. So if
Mm,
someone doesn't have that compassion, if someone doesn't have that empathy, they're able to do things like leave their children out in the snow. Me, for example, you as well, we can't do those kind of things because we are equipped with something called compassion. And so his lack of compassion actually taught me about compassion. The same thing with my mother. I hated my mother for a really long time because of the abuse that she inflicted on me. And then I heard her story. I heard about the violence that happened, the emotional, physical, and sexual abuse that happened when she was a child. And so, how was I supposed to expect her to be this kind of mother that I always wanted growing up when she didn't have that experience and that ability to become that kind of mother? So now to this day, I'm able to show compassion to everyone from pedophiles to serial killers. It's not that I agree with what they do, but I'm able to understand where it is that they're coming from. I'm able to understand society as a whole and understand that we are all lacking in different areas, some people more than others. But it's really just about understanding what is going on and understanding these different concepts in society. And it allows me to understand myself as well. So to this day, talking about my childhood and my trauma, I talk about it sort of like a movie that I've seen. There is that disconnection where I don't suffer anymore from the experiences. I use them to empower myself and use them to tell stories to other people to then empower them. It's sort of like you never forget what happened, but I,
yeah.
but I don't suffer from it either.
Amazing. And so, you've actually turned your story of abandonment, your story of pain, you've actually now just kind of rewritten your story, to be quite honest with you. And you've actually birthed something fantastic and something amazing from it. You've birthed this six-figure business. You are now a six-figure boss. And it's amazing how our pain, whatever we are going through, can actually be an amazing opportunity to help other people. And so I want you to take us through, your journey of giving birth to your amazing business.
Yes. So my mission is always
Mm,
first. And I think that's what's allowed me to create this business in such a short period. I only
yeah,
started my business 2 years ago. So I am quite new in the coaching space, in the online business space.
yeah.
I was able to scale my business so quickly because I focused on my mission first. I
Mm,
was on my way when I was in college to be a Wall Street broker. That was sort of my dream when I was young, which is crazy because I can't imagine doing that, to this day. But I I was able to build my business so quickly because I number one focused on my mission. And my mission is to provide people with the education that society is lacking. We really need to get this education out there in any means possible. And the second thing that I've done in my business is build relationships. So I haven't spent any money on ads, for example. I know ads can be a really great tool, but I wanted to build my business based on relationships. So I do consistent networking events. I've created my own networking event called the Power Woman Coffee Chat. I do a lot of referral programs. I stay in contact with podcast hosts like yourself and other people in the industry. And for me, building those businesses has allowed me to get into these networks and create my business in a very organic way. For me, I do talk about my story, abandonment at birth to six-figure boss, because I think it's quite an interesting story, but I don't focus on the six figures themselves. Yes, as a business owner, you do want to make money. It is part of owning a business. But I could have also made, six figures as a Wall Street broker. but I feel more empowered about having a business that allows me to connect with people and make an imprint on the world. It's not just about the money, although, yeah, money is great. It gives you a lot of access to many different things, but it's being able to pair that successful business with the type of business that it is. Knowing that I'm changing families, I'm changing, I work with a lot of families who have young children, and for
Yeah.
me, being able to have this business that is not only affecting my clients, but affecting those children as well, because I see myself in those children. I see myself in those kids who have those parents that are fighting all the time and, not able to pay their bills and things like that. And knowing that I'm putting this information in their hands, but also in the future generations.
Absolutely. That sounds incredible. And so that really brings me to, in terms of the services that you actually provide and who does he actually serve?
So I have many different services. I
Mhm.
know a lot of times in coaching, people like to niche down. I'm quite unniched, I would say. I do work with many different types of people. I'm a professional on the app Peanut. There we have a lot of stay-at-home moms or lower income families. And so I have a self-study program for them, which comes in at just £49, because I want them to have access to this information, be able to have it with their partner or by themselves. And
Mhm.
then I do one-on-one coaching or one-on-two coaching. I coach individuals who want to get this information before getting into a relationship, which is my hope for everyone. This
Yeah.
idea of sort of preventative medicine, that we learn this before going through this process.
Hmm.
And then I also do work with couples who have already been in a relationship anywhere from a year to 25 years. We go through a program that's 3 months long, and really just providing them that information and that guidance so that they can first understand what's going on, and
Mm.
second, have that information so that when those difficult times come, they can make those informed decisions. Everything that I do is based on science. I know a lot of times these sort of relationship coaches and dating gurus and stuff, they say a lot of things that sound trendy or sound nice or sort of have this shock value. But everything that I do is based on science, because I want people to have that really useful information to change their
Mm.
life.
Fantastic. So, when it comes to mastering relationship intelligence, could you tell us how that would actually support us in terms of having a thriving business? So, how can mastering relationship intelligence allow us to create a thriving business? Because I think that's very important, actually, relationship intelligence.
Yes. So the first thing we have to understand is that the quality of our life is dependent on
Mm.
the quality of our relationships.
Yes.
Yes, you can have all the money in the world, you can have a successful business, you can be super uber famous, and
Yeah.
that's great. But if you don't have successful relationships, as we've seen, it's not
Hmm.
enough. And this is why a lot of, rappers, singers, actors, actresses are having these really difficult lives, because the money and the fame is not enough. We need the relationships. And this is the same for business. If you want to have a thriving business, you have to
Mm.
master those relationships. So when you start a business, understanding what your mission is, understanding who you are, understanding what kind of leader you
Mm.
are, understanding how to interact with your team, how to interact with your audience, understanding what your audience needs and asking them questions. When I first started my
Absolutely.
business, I think like a lot of people, I was, having this idea of, oh, I have a lot of information, listen to what I have to say. Very quickly turned that around and said, what do you experience? What do you need? So asking rather than telling. It's really understanding how to navigate the different relationships with yourself, with your team, with your audience, and being able to provide the best value, which will then ultimately provide the best profit as well.
Absolutely. And so, in terms of your journey as a businesswoman so far, how would you describe it in one word?
Good question. My journey as a businesswoman in one word, I would say exhilarating.
Exhilarating. Okay, so go into a little bit more detail. What is so exhilarating about it?
I would say it's been a lot of fun. It
Okay.
is a lot of fun. It continues to be a lot of fun. It continues to be exciting because I'm learning so quickly as I go. I am a person who is very self-taught, and I'm able to shift and maneuver as I learn things. So before I started my business, I didn't have social media. I didn't even know what a hashtag was about 2 years ago. Don't tell anybody that. So I've been learning on this journey and learning also from other coaches. Having this networking group that I have, I learn from a lot of my peers about how they're doing their business, how they're connecting to others, how they're preventing burnout and things like that. So for me, it's been really exciting. Yes, there are those moments where you feel that your head is going to explode because there's so much going on. There's so many emails and things like that. But ultimately, I find it just really, really exciting at the end of the day. And when I work with my clients, that's ultimately my favorite moments. Yes, I do like the networking. I do love the media features and things like that. But ultimately, when I get to work with those clients and they have those aha moments, that for me is the greatest gift of all.
That's incredible. That's really, really awesome. And, when it comes to perhaps starting on this journey, did you feel like you needed a mentor or someone who was like a trusted coach that you can actually go to? Did you have any mentor or coaches in the beginning?
I didn't. So
Mm,
I did just throw myself in there and I did research a few coaches.
mhm.
They were sort of secretly my mentor, sort of the
Right.
same as Tony Robbins and Les Brown were secretly, my guides as well. So I didn't particularly work with any business coaches or anything like that, but I did follow some on Instagram. I did started to befriend some in the networking groups and get some of that insight in that way. But I didn't have any formal mentor.
Mentor. Okay, amazing. So you're sort of like sort of learning along the way and really trying to figure it out really through the journey, right?
Yes, yes. And
Great.
again, having these networks of
Mm,
these really beautiful, powerful women in my Facebook groups and the coffee chats, it's constantly allowing me to learn something new every day. Really, just participating in different projects and stuff like that. It's kind of a more organic way for me to have that
mm.
mentorship because I am constantly learning. I'm constantly picking things up. I mean, even you, before I did this call with you, I do research about what you have going on, what it is that
Yeah.
you do, and how you
Mm.
do things. And I'm constantly picking up all of this information.
Absolutely. And I know when it comes to business, it can be very, very much challenging, managing a business. And sometimes it could be emotionally taxing sometimes. We have so many ups and downs, and it can actually consume an unlimited amount of time. And so I just wanted you to kind of tell us what are the three things that you basically do to be able to kind of maintain a healthy work-life balance?
Yes. So
Mm,
having a work-life balance is it's kind of a funny concept to me. So
yeah.
I do understand what people mean by that, but
Hmm.
for me, I think work is part of your life, and so
Right.
it's just sort of like life balance. For me, one of the most important things is my health because when I feel better, I do better. So I follow a vegan diet. I've been vegan now for many years. It allows me to have a lot of energy. It's part of following that value system that I have. I exercise almost every day, having that energy and, all of those endorphins going on when you exercise, having that meditation every single morning. So when I wake up, I do 15 minutes of meditation just after I brush my teeth. That allows me to stay in control of my mind because what I tell people is from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed, your brain is on autopilot. Your mind is on autopilot. You're thinking about what happened yesterday. You're thinking about all the things that you have to do for the day. You're feel fearful for tomorrow. And so we're not even conscious about all those repetitive thoughts. And
Hmm.
most of our thoughts are repetitive. We sort of
Yeah.
sit think the same thing every single day. So for me, having that 15 minutes of meditation allows me to be more present and be more in control of those thoughts that are going on. And it allows me to focus much more. So health is definitely the number one thing that I focus on to allow me to have this business. The second thing I would say is having this mission in mind and never forgetting about the mission. So
Mm.
I do have a lot of offers from people to do different features or do different collaborations, and I have to make sure that it is in line with my mission, and I'm going to be talking to the right audience, because sometimes you get something that looks juicy, but maybe it's not really the right fit. And I would say the third thing is to prioritize what's going to give me the most value. So as I started my journey and I started doing a lot of PR, I got a lot of offers and requests from different platforms. And I was talking to another girl yesterday. We were having this solo coffee chat, and she was asking me about how do you stay on top of all your PR and stuff like that. And I said, you just have to find the ones that fit right with you. You have to find the ones that are in alignment with you, because otherwise you're just doing too much stuff at once. So there's a
Yes.
lot of offers out there. I got a few offers to do like a co-writing on different books with other coaches, or do a lot of seminars and stuff like that. So you just have to find the top ones that you find you're most in alignment with, because that's going to allow you to do less but get more value.
Absolutely. And so when it comes to when you first started your business, did you actually kind of had to overcome any personal obstacles at all?
Yes. Yes, I think like everyone else. I was, it's kind of funny because as I said, I was able to scale my business to six figures in just 2 years, but I was impatient in the beginning. I wanted it to happen in 24 hours. I was like, okay, I'm starting this. I want to be successful yesterday. And so even though it has happened quickly, in the beginning, I wanted it to happen much more quickly. So I had to learn that patience. I had to learn, especially as a coach, it's not, my husband, for example, he has a business where he sells physical things. And so he can put a price on that. He can say this glass is worth $2. Do you want to buy this glass? And someone can look at that and say, okay, it's worth $2. But when you're selling a mission, you're selling yourself, you're selling an idea, it takes time because it takes trust. People need to trust you. People need to know that, one, you know what you're talking about. Two, that you have their best interest in mind. You have to build those relationships that take time. And so in the beginning, I was putting out content. I was, having all these offers, and I remember the first time I had a masterclass, no one showed up, and I cried. I was in tears. I was like, what is going on? Nobody likes me. This is never going to work out. So I had to learn that patience, and I had to stay on the mission. I had to continue and push through all of those difficult moments. I say motivation is what gets us started, but discipline is what keeps us going. So even after that motivation starts to run out, you just do it anyway, because you have that faith and you have that vision. And if you need to tweak things, if you need to learn, if you need to try something else, that's perfectly fine. But having that faith is really, really important. So that was something that I had to work through in the beginning.
Absolutely. Having faith, believing in yourself. I think those things are definitely vital. And so, when it comes to relationship building as women in business, give us 2 tips that you feel could actually help some of us who are in business in building positive relationships.
I think having this online world was tricky for me, to be honest. Again, because I didn't have social media before my business. I stopped it in college. I felt that it was a little bit too consuming for me. And so when I came online, I was a little bit like a fish out of water. And I saw a lot of what I perceived to be really inauthentic relationship building. People sort of commenting here and there, lots and lots of cold DMs, which I still get to this day. Someone saying, "Hey Riley, I love what you do. Do you want to buy my service?" And I'm like, wait, hold on. It's too fast. So I would say that the number one thing for me is to build authentic relationships. And yes, that takes time and it takes energy, but I would rather have 5 really authentic relationships than 1,000 people who just click like, and do all that stuff, because I think it holds more value. So having those authentic relationships is really going to make a difference. Again, when I created this Power Women coffee chat, it was a way for us to get off of social media, see each other face to face. We do it online, but I can see you, I can hear you, I can sort of feel your energy. And then when we go back on social media, I'm like, oh, I actually know her a little bit, more than just seeing a photo here and there. So I think building authentic relationships deeper than just the liking and the commenting is really going to make a difference. I
Yeah.
think the second thing is that you don't have to be friends with everyone. Because along my journey, as a coach, one of the other lessons that I learned is that not everyone is going to like you. And not everyone is going to understand that there is a difference between a coach and a therapist, for example. And so I did start to learn that people are going to write hate comments. People are not going to like you. They're not going to believe in what you have to say. And allowing yourself to build relationships where you feel that there is that connection, and
Mm.
accept when someone crosses you and they don't believe in what you're doing, they don't like your prices, they don't like what you have to say, understanding that that's just not a relationship that you want to build. And it's just like anyone crossing you on the street that maybe gives you a bad face. You just let it go and understand that you're not for everyone.
Absolutely, it's so true. And I think you can't really force relationships. You've got to allow it to build. And, from building, then you start to have the trust. And yeah, you got to just keep it simple and just let it be what it needs to be rather than forcing it. And like you said, not everybody is your friend, which I think is very, very important for us as business women and also men as well. And so, as we just come to the lovely end of this wonderful podcast interview, I wanted you to kind of give us an advice in terms of what would you kind of advice would you give to somebody who is actually pursuing their own profession in this field, the same field as you? What advice would you give them?
So much. I would say, really understand what your mission is,
Mm,
understand what your vision is, understand what it is that you're trying to do other than just making the money. Because I think, especially when it comes to coaching, we do get fixated on the numbers.
yeah,
And I think my husband told me this in the very beginning, and I think about it every day, that if you provide value, the money will come.
right.
And he really lives by this every day in his business. And it's true. If you provide enough value, you don't have to stress about the money. I
Yes.
think if someone wants to become a coach, really dig deep and understand why it is that you want to do this, how you can connect with people, how you
Mm.
can give them the most value. And then of course the money will come.
Yeah, that is so, so true. And also, I wanted to know in regards to how can people actually reach you and work with you?
So I am on Instagram and Facebook. It's just Railey Molinario. So if you check my name, you'll be able to find me. And then I do run a consistent contest on my website, RaileyMolinario.com. If you pop your name into the pop up window, you will be entered to win 1 month of free relationship coaching.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. And so I'm just going to quickly pop your information. So, for those of you who are listening today, all our wonderful audience, thank you so much for tuning in. I wanted to let you know that we have all the details for you to be able to get in touch with my wonderful guest is right there for you. Do get in touch with her. And also you can actually attend one of her amazing coffee get-togethers online. Tell us a little bit more about that because that's how we actually met actually.
Yeah, so it's the Power Women Coffee Chat. We meet every Wednesday and it's completely free. It's my thank you to the coaching industry because I really truly believe that coaches are these little super fairies all over the world, just making the world a better place. So
Yes.
you can come, it's Wednesday, 2 p.m. London time, and we just get together, connect, share our services, share our support, and it's a beautiful place for women to come together.
Absolutely. So do come along and have a great chat with the amazing Riley. And also there is questions that I usually ask my guests. So it's a really fun question. And the question I have for you today is basically just imagine yourself, right, on a billboard. Could you tell us exactly what that billboard will actually say? So, what would you kind of put on the billboard? Why? And why is that?
Good question. I would put, you know what? I would steal it. I would steal this phrase. I would ask permission first, but this is really one of the most empowering phrases I've heard in my
Mm,
entire life, and it is from Les
yeah.
Brown. It says, "It's not over until I win." And
I
this for
love
me
that.
has been, it's such a powerful statement because again, when I was in that moment where I wanted to take my life, that was the
Yeah.
end for me. That was it. And so if I'm going to do it, I'm going to give it everything I have. And it doesn't matter how long it's going to take, it doesn't matter how hard it's going to be because I deserve it.
I love that. That is so good. And you know what? When you shared your story, I just want to quickly just ask a question around that. And this is another simple, fun question. It's about what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I would tell her, I've heard this question a lot, and I think most
Mm,
of us have the same answer.
yeah,
Everything is going to be okay.
everything's going to be okay. And everything is okay because now you have positioned yourself as a leader. Your past has not defined who you are. You know, you are standing strong as a powerful woman. You are sharing your story with confidence. You are changing lives. You are inspiring and you have become a change maker. Your events online, bringing women all across the world together, has really empowered and inspired so many. And so, yes, I truly believe what you said about what you will say to your 18-year-old self, because fast forward till today, you are now on the Birth Your Vision podcast, you
Yeah.
know, sharing that story, which is truly amazing. I am so inspired by your story. And thank you so much for being an amazing guest, you know, sharing your innermost, story with us, because it takes a lot of courage and a lot of power to be able to open up and express your past and how you've actually turned that into something great for you. And so thank you so much. And I just wanted to know how you've actually kind of enjoyed the process of being a guest on the show.
You're a fantastic host.
Thank you.
I love doing podcasts. I do sometimes two in a day. I actually did one earlier today.
Mm,
And everyone has a different personality, everyone has a different style. The
mm,
most important thing for the guest is to feel comfortable, feel
yes.
connected, feel uplifted.
Mm,
Not everyone does that. So I thank you so much for having just beautiful energy, very welcoming,
mm.
very connective, very inspiring. It makes my job as a guest easier when the host
Easier.
is fantastic. So genuinely, you're really great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is so good to hear. And I think one of the main reason is that it's about positivity, positive energy, because, you know, allowing your guests to be able to share their true story, their authentic self, and just be who they are. It's so vital and it's so important to me. And thank you so much for definitely highlighting that and letting me know. So that's one of a great tip, you know, that I'm going to continue to work on. And also, just lastly, give us one word of inspiration, or even two, for those who are watching today and they are feeling discouraged. But from hearing your story of how you were able to turn your pain into a thriving business, I want you to just inspire some of our listeners today so that they can actually maybe have a mind shift like what you had, when you were going through your adversity.
If anyone feels stuck, they
Mm,
feel as if they're struggling, which I think most of us do. We all go through that experience of wanting more for our lives. The
mm,
most important thing is to understand that you deserve it. And if you deserve it, you can have it.
yeah.
When I was younger, I didn't believe that I deserved it because of where I came from, because of the stories that I heard, because of
Mm,
the language that was used when I was a child.
yes.
But having that confidence, building that confidence, which took, many years, it really shifts your mind into understanding that if I deserve it, I'm going to go out and get it.
Right.
And when you have that motivation and you invest in that motivation, I suggest investing into it daily. But
Mm,
you also pair that with that discipline that once that motivation goes out of the window, you remind yourself of why you're doing it and you do it anyway. When you don't feel like it, you do it anyway.
you
And
do
you
it
just
anyway.
and you will see things, even if they're baby steps, you will see things transform.
Absolutely. It's all about doing it in fear, even though you feel that really horrible gut feeling and you have anxiety and all this fear around you. Just do it anyway.
Mhm.
Because once you do it, amazing things starts to happen. You will never get to know what would happen on the other side if you don't start it, if you don't do it. So it's about just doing it anyway. That's my mantra. Get on with it and
Yes.
just do it. And I just wanted to kind of highlight one of our wonderful listeners, Joanne. Thank you so much for listening. She said, "It's not over till I win." And so she loved what you said about, what you would tell your 18-year-old self. She said, "I absolutely love that." Thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast. Lovely, Joe. Thank you. And so we have come to the end of our podcast. I am so excited. It's been an amazing interview having you on the show, sharing your, wonderful story with us. And there is so much to learn from what you've actually shared with us today. So thank you so much. It's been an amazing pleasure having you on today's show. Thank you so much. And so to all our wonderful guests, thank you for tuning in. I'm really grateful for having you on the show and for leaving your comments as well. And so until next time, join me again as we continue to celebrate International Women's Month. I'm going to be bringing some amazing guests where they're going to be sharing their journey of how they were able to give birth to their vision, something that they have been carrying for so long and they finally gave birth to it, how they've been able to turn it into a thriving business. So thank you so much for joining me today on this particular episode on Birth Your Vision podcast. And I appreciate your presence on this edition. And please remember that you can actually leave a rating and also a review. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as the wonderful directories, Apple, Spotify, and so many more. Invite your friends and your family. Invite lots of great business women and men to actually listen and get involved. And so until next time, continue to support us. Have a great evening. Thank you so much, Riley. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Take care, everyone, and see you next week. Stay blessed. Bye for now.